And we're recording. We're going to start and finish chapter 10 today. We will not have class on Friday. I'm going to be in a Jacob, don't you clap for that. Nicole, kick you both out. Um, I have a remote conference to attend, a virtual conference to attend on Thursday and Friday, so I'm not having any classes. If you haven't taken your quiz, which is the great majority of you, please take it by midnight. I know, Trish, you're fine. Take it by midnight tonight. Um, let's see. Anything else? No? Okay.
So don't even try to log in on Friday.
Don't even try to. No, I mean, you can. You can try. You're not going to get anywhere with it.
No, we have an exam, so that just means I don't have to be sober on Friday. So perfect.
Yes, it does, I guess, if that's how you do it. Chapter 10, Emotional and Social Development in Middle Childhood. Okay, these are the school years, 6 through 11, right? Oh, we develop a sense of competence, which Eric Erickson also called industriousness. We begin to expand our social understanding, sizing up our strengths, our weaknesses, kind of refining our personality characteristics. We rely more on our friends for understanding and emotional support, and we have these shifts in the parent child relationship. So, Eric Erickson, industry versus inferiority, right? So you end up on the good side of it, where you feel industrious and competent against your peers or among your peers, or you feel inferior. So if you are industrious, you develop a sense of competence at skills and tasks. And these combine several developments: a positive but realistic self concept, some pride in your accomplishments, moral responsibilities, and now advanced or more advanced cooperative participation with age mates. But if you don't, you develop a sense of inferiority, right? A pessimism and lack of confidence in one's own ability to do well. And this also is implicated in others' negative responses that can contribute. So, some changes in our self concept. It becomes more balanced. There are fewer all or none descriptions. I am a shy person. Well, no, now it becomes I'm a shy person around this or that. We have more social comparisons. We begin to look at who we really are versus who we want to be. We start to reference our group membership. We start to identify who ourselves based on who we are involved with, what we do, play baseball, softball, volleyball, hockey. Our peers, right? Their feedback begins to become more and more important to us. And we will see that there are some cultural variations. So there's this hierarchical structure of self esteem when it comes to the mid elementary school years. So we have our general self esteem and what feeds it: academic competence, social competence, athletic competence, and our physical appearance. So when we are talking about academics, talking about, reading, writing, math, other history, that stuff. Social competence, both our relationship with our peers and the relationship with our parents. Physical or athletic competence, those games, those organized sports, t-ball or whatever it is that you're playing, grasshopper, that kind of thing, right? Soccer, and other various sports. It could be playing chess, it could be ping pong, right? And then lastly, our physical appearance. When it comes to our culture, gender, and ethnicity, and how it impacts our self esteem, of course, there's going to be some media influence on this. We see, oh, the pretty ladies, oh, the pretty ladies. Is that how it goes?
It's all the single ladies.
Yeah, that's right. But there's also a fun song that's like, oh, on a Saturday night, all the pretty girls on a Saturday. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so we see these things in these movies, and we see these things in our YouTube videos, and we see these things in our games and music videos and that sort of thing, right? Some gender stereotypes. Girls become less confident about their appearance and their athletic abilities. Girls are higher in language arts and friendship self-esteem. Boys are higher in math and science self-esteem, meaning what they think they're capable of. African American children have slightly higher self esteem than European American children. Self esteem is supported by our neighborhoods, our schools, especially where the child's socioeconomic status and ethnicity are well represented. The role of parenting in our self esteem. Again, that gold standard, the authoritative child rearing style, right? Moderate control, but high in warmth. Okay. That's the best. So the styles that are linked to poor self esteem, where parents are overly controlling, if they're disapproving, if they're indulgent, excessive praise and self focus can overly inflate children's self esteem. There goes Andrew. Hi, Andrew. It's best to encourage striving for worthwhile goals, right? Achievement fosters self esteem. So if you achieve something, your self esteem is boosted, and vice versa. Your self esteem is boosted. If it's high, you're more likely to achieve. So when we are talking about attributions, we're talking about the causes of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. So there's two kind of attributions, the mastery oriented and the learned helplessness. So when we have a mastery oriented attribution style, and when we define or explain the reasons for our success, we'll say, hey, we're just capable people. I'm just talented, right? But when it comes to failing, hey, Andrew, right? The reason for failing, it's based on controllable factors, such as I didn't put enough effort into it. We'll also seek information on how to improve. The alternative is this learned helplessness attribution style. And when we succeed, we go, I got lucky, right? But when we fail, eh, you know what? Didn't matter how much I tried. This is not in me. It's not in my blood. We'll seek positive and avoid negative evaluations. And the ability no longer is predictive of performance. Doesn't matter if you're able or not. You don't believe you can, so there it is. Could or couldn't. So the influences on learned helplessness attribution. Person praise emphasizes the child's traits. You are this, you are that. It teaches children that abilities are fixed. Parents believe the child can be incapable of things. You are not this, you are not that. And they can also give person praise for success, which leads to the person praise. Unsupportive teachers can lead to learned helplessness. Gender stereotypes. Why bother? I'm a guy. I'm not going to be able to write. How do we foster mastery oriented approach? Process praise, not person praise, not you're the best around. Now it's you did a really good job trying at that. You emphasize the behavior and the effort. It suggests that competence develops through effort. The attribution retraining encourages. So they're saying like if you got something wrong, if you want to get it back on track to the mastery oriented, you need to encourage exerting more effort to the child. Try more. Try again. Try something different using more effective strategies. Focus on mastering a task for its own sake. Hey, you want to improve your writing? Why don't you write a story just for fun? Just for fun. Write a poem. Focus on individual improvement. Don't compare yourself to others. Now, emotional development. We begin to develop these self conscious emotions like pride and guilt. And these are governed by personal responsibility. We have better emotional understanding. We can explain emotions using internal states. We can appreciate mixed emotions. I'm happy for you, but I'm kind of jealous. Our empathy increases. When it comes to emotional self regulation, this is motivated by increased social interactions. The more we interact with people, the more we are motivated to control our tempers, to be nice, play nice. Samantha, you are making me dizzy. We will increasingly prefer verbal expressions rather than acting out. Who said what? Somebody say something? What are you smiling at, Jake the Snake? Didn't think so. You don't want none of this. Coping strategies, right? So you got a problem. You're upset. Something's not right. There are two ways to handle it. You can go right to the problem. This is called problem-centered coping. You appraise the situation and you see it as changeable. You identify any difficulties, you decide what to do, and you implement it. You try to fix it. Okay. Emotion centered coping. Now, this typically is used when you've already tried the process or the problem centered the problem centered coping method, and it doesn't work. So you go, you know what? I guess I just got to figure out how to deal with it myself, my emotional reaction to it. During these years, we have changes in moral understanding, right? Our moral rules become more flexible. We begin to learn, maybe lying isn't always bad, and telling the truth isn't always good, because sometimes your friend doesn't look that good, and when your friend asks you, "What do you think of this shirt?" and you're like, "That is the ugliest shirt," but you don't want to be honest about that. So you consider intentions, you consider context. We have a better understanding of different reasons for lying. We also link moral imperatives or morals and social conventions, meaning you have these social rules, like you are not supposed to steal from the candy store. It becomes morally wrong as well. You adopt it as a moral imperative. Understanding diversity and inequality. First, we make our cliques. We go, "You're my best friend, you're my best friend, you're my best friend, and you're my best friend." Someone wants to join, you go, "Fine, you can come in too." You want to come in too? You can come in too. No problem. But you got these in group, these are my pals, these are my BFFs, right? In group favoritism. That's what starts it. Then you start culling the litter. You start like going, "No, okay, and you start like looking at other groups and going, they're not as cool as our group, right? So you have out group prejudice, but it starts with in group favoritism, innocent as it may sound in the beginning. By early school years, we associate power and privilege with white people. We acquire negative attitudes toward minorities. With age, overt prejudice declines. We begin to focus more on inner traits, but the implicit prejudice may persist. What what contributes to prejudice? Having a fixed view of personality traits, having an overly high self-esteem, even the social world in which we are sorted into groups, right? So meaning you have different neighborhoods, right? You grew up in the country is predominantly white. You grew up in the city, the city is predominantly mixed. So how do we reduce it? We have to have different people from different backgrounds working toward a common goal. We have to have long-term intergroup contact and collaboration in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our communities. And by that, we mean like our extracurricular activity, like in sports, like in church, that kind of thing. We have to foster a belief in changeability of human traits. Even volunteering, we have to interact with others. We will never. Some evolutionary psychologists theorized that prejudice was innate, that it's evolved over time, so we can identify people who are not members of our tribe and see them as a threat. Well, those days are long gone. We don't need to see different people of different shades of skin as a threat. Just because they're taller doesn't mean they're threatening. Just because they're a man doesn't mean they're threatening. I wish. Just because they're a woman doesn't mean they're even kind. Even the benevolent stereotypes are wrong. All right. Our peer groups. We will create our peer groups based on proximity, which means closeness in time and space. And lastly, similarity. So you think about it, where you grew up, if you got a bunch of, houses around you with kids your age, chances are you're going to be spending time with them over the summer. And you're going to be going, all right, you're my friend, and you're my friend, and you're my friend. And you're weird. I don't want to be around you because you like NASCAR and I like baseball. I don't know, something, right? Okay. What does peer culture do? It changes our vocabulary, the way we dress, even where we hang out. And this can involve relational aggression and exclusion, right? We could learn to go, you're not a part of our group. We don't want you to be a part of our group, and you got funny colored hair. our friendships in middle childhood. When it comes to personal qualities, trust becomes important. We become more selective in choosing our friends. We tend to select friends that are similar to ourselves. Our friendships are fairly stable, they can last several years, and multiple things support the endurance. The type of friend affects both our development and our behavior, the types of friends we have. And when you were in school, right? Remember when you were in high school, you had the jocks, they call them. You'd have the I don't even know, the preps is what we used to call them when we were younger, the preppies, right? And then you'd have the musicians, always had the band people and the chorus people, right? Or the arty people. They're always like the actors and actresses.
In my class, it was super small, and we had the super smart people that no one could ever like equate to in anything. And then we had like the people who played sports and were super like rude to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's usually what happens. There's something related to athletic ability and like this snobbiness. Um, Not always. Don't get me wrong. It's not always the case. But when you outperform and people see that and they feel inferior, they see that, they notice that, they thrive on it. But what I'm talking about. There were also that one group of kids, right? There's that one group of kids that were like the smokers. Remember? They're the ones that would go out and drink all the time and
Oh yeah. Oh
school,
yeah.
right? Yeah. And so those are the ones that are going to have an impact on the way you develop. All these, right? If you're friends with the jocks, they're going to have an impact on the way you behave, where you spend your time, where you develop, how you develop physically, emotionally, cognitively. I I had like my toe dipped in a lot of different groups. I had we actually called them the nerds, right? I had my toe dipped into the nerd group. I had my toe dipped into the jock group, and I had my toe dipped into the outcast group. I was not popular. I was not a
Me
prep.
too. Me too.
Yeah, I didn't go full bore on anything, nothing. I didn't want to like commit to anybody or anything. But none of these groups got together. There's never all of us getting together at once. It was like I'm going to spend time with my dirty group, then we'd go out driving and go to a party or something, right? And if I was going to go spend time with the jock group, we'd go to like a track meet or some other kind of sporting event. And then my nerd group would go see a concert or something. We'd always go see a band. Anyway, peer acceptance. And this is for everybody, right? We all experience this. Anyway, peer acceptance, the likability, the group's view of an individual, um, the powerful predictor of psychological adjustment. But just because you're popular doesn't mean it always correlates with psychological adjustment. So the early influences, children's characteristics combined with parenting practices. So something about who they are. Like uh, Trish, you have kids. Nicole, you have kids, right? Plural. Yeah, and they're different, right? They're different, and so you got them being different, and then you got you treating them differently based on their needs or based on what they deserve. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah, exactly. So it's a combo platter, right? So the categories, I think you guys will like this one. The categories of peer acceptance. If you're popular, you get many positive votes. And there are two kinds. There's the popular where you're very helpful and pro-social, or there's the popular where you're too cool for school, right? Then there's the rejected. These are many negative votes, right? There's the rejected aggressive. These are the bullies. Then there's the rejected withdrawn. These are the ones who are bullied. There's the controversial. You kind of liked and disliked. Depends. Then there's the neglected. Who are they? Who? Who? I don't even know who that person. That person's in our grade. I didn't know that. Then there's the average category. We have an average number of votes, approximately 1/3 of a typical classroom are average people, right? Now, when it comes to bullies and their victims, bullies most often are the boys. They're physically, verbally, relationally aggressive. They're socially prominent and they're powerful. Victims, are often passive when they're expected to do something. They lack any help, any assistance, any defenders of the universe, like He-Man. They have an inhibited temperament. They're physically frail, not always physically frail. They have overly protective and controlling parents. So, what are some supportive solutions? We can help victimized children form friendships. The community can create these codes against traditional and cyberbullying. Like we can do it by teaching in our schools, right? We can teach the kids at schools bullying is bad, all that stuff. We could also teach our children to stand up against the bullies for someone else. As bystanders, we can teach them to intervene. How can we help rejected children? We can coach them positive social skills. Like, do you ever think that maybe people are picking on you about you picking your nose because you're picking your nose? Maybe if you stop picking your nose, I don't know. Maybe if you hide it better, I don't know. Okay. We can promote perspective taking and social problem solving. We can try to alter their peers' negative opinions, right? Maybe you can dress real young and go to school with your kid and be like, pretend you're a new student and be like, oh man, Trish is like so rad, isn't she? Totally. And Trish should be looking, Dad. No? Okay. We can intervene in negative parenting practices. Let's talk about gender typing, which is gender development. Gender stereotypes are extended to include personality traits and school subjects. They're more we have a more flexible view of what males and females can do. The gender identity that's developing between third to sixth grade. The boys' masculine identification strengthens. Girls become more androgynous. They are allowed to explore more options, more rigidity. Get out of there, Atlas. Um, let's see. We become more aware of society's greater regard for masculine traits. So when it comes to our gender identity, the self-evaluations affect our adjustment. There's gender typicality. There's gender contentedness. There's the feeling that we are pressured to conform to gender roles. But when we are gender atypical, our sense of self-worth declines. So we do need to implement interventions to support acceptance. Family relationships. When it comes to parent-child relationships, again, the authoritative style is the best. We use this what's called co-regulation, where parents will gradually shift from having control to giving the child some control. Sibling relationships, there's sibling rivalry, right? Where even the parents will compare the children, the siblings, and even that will contribute to sibling rivalry. Yeah, Jake the Snake sees that. He's like, I am not Jason, or whoever your brother or sister is.
My parents treated me and my sister completely different.
It's not surprising. It's pretty typical, isn't it?
My sister was the wild child and I was the good kid.
I would have guessed that, knowing you. From what little I know of you, you would have been the responsible one. Now, does that mean your sister's younger?
No, she's older than me and I terrorized her.
Really? Wow.
She's 23 and I'm 20. Well, she's turning 24 and I'm 20.
Okay.
So I terrorized her. She was the wild child. I was the good kid. Yep. And I'm the baby.
Yep. Yeah. That's usually the baby does get, the baby treatment, but usually it's the firstborn that sees a need, especially if it's a woman, especially if it's a girl, a young girl. She'll see quickly that I need to set an example. Huh. Interesting. That's interesting. Well,
one time I locked my grandparents have these like chest like cabinets in one of their living rooms, and we were playing at their house and she put me in it and like locked me in there for a minute. And then
nice.
I was messing around with her and she climbed inside of it and I sat on top of it for like an hour.
Does it have holes in it? Obviously you can.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was just like a chest cabinet thing, but I like terrorized her all through childhood.
Yep. I understand that. My brother still has fork marks in his forehead from where I stabbed him. And the funny thing is that one of the tines was crooked, so it goes dit dit and then dit. He's 43 years old. He still has a fork mark in his forehead. Anyway, sibling relationships can also provide companionship, assistance, even emotional support. And of course, parental encouragement of the warm sibling ties is vital. Get out there and help your sister. Get out there and play with your brother. Go do something together. Okay. What about only children? They seem to be higher in self esteem, higher in achievement motivation, higher in educational attainment. They have a closer relationship with their parents who may exert more pressure to achieve. They're less well accepted in their peer group. Why? Thinking is maybe it's because they lack practice in conflict resolution. What,
We
Trish?
call that a lonely only.
A lonely only.
My granddaughter was one until my grandson was just born, and she's a hot mess. She doesn't share well. She doesn't play well with others.
How old is she?
She's 8.
Ooh, still like that, huh?
Well,
Even
she's
when you have more than one, they don't share or play well.
but she had a hard time in school because she had never had to share with anyone that wasn't an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's difficult. I mean, my mother said to my wife, I think, the greatest gift that she ever gave us boys, because there are 5 of us, are each other. Because we could entertain each other. We could keep each other, busy, whether we're fighting or whatever. The one with the fork stamp there, the one I gave Joe, my brother's name. He and I used to fight like awful. My mother actually dragged our bed mattress out one time to out back and said, just fight. Just fight. And we did. I came up bloody nose. Anyway, moving on. So that's possibly what accounts for less well acceptance in the peer group. What happens when we get divorced, right? When parents divorce, the immediate consequences are there could be family conflict. There's going to be more than likely a drop in income in the mother-headed households. There's going to be maternal stress. There's going to be inconsistent discipline, a loss of routines, right? So now that mom and dad aren't together, maybe they're letting some things slide because they don't want to be the bad one. They want the kid to spend more time with them and so on. So the child's reactions vary with age, sex, and temperament. The long-term consequences, we see improved adjustment after 2 years, the declines in academic achievement, self-esteem, social competence, emotional and behavioral problems, future problems with their own relationships in the future. But look at this, you guys. This is important. This is what I want you to know. As education increases, so does marital stability. Know that. And there are many reasons why this is. Many, many contributing factors. Because not only are you learning, so it goes from no high school diploma, some college, bachelor's degree, master's degree. Not only are you learning about critical thinking skills and taking your time and seeking alternative explanations and having the willingness to wonder and to accept that you don't know everything, conflict resolution, you're also learning about the world, right? So you have a better sex life. You are able to carry on a better conversation, right? All these things contribute. Okay. Helping children adjust to divorce. We want to shield them from conflict, right? If you're going to get into a fight, don't do it in front of the kids. Like a verbal argument. Provide continuity and familiarity in the daily life. Okay, don't go, oh, today's different, and then tomorrow your dad's, and then today you're home, and today I don't know what's going on. You go to your grams, whatever. Maintain that authoritative parenting style. Moderate control. Maintain the control. Moderate control. Heavy on the warmth. Promote regular contact with the father if he's not the custodial parent. Promote that. If she's not the custodial parent, promote regular contact with the mother. Yes, of course, if there are dangers that you're concerned about, then you have your reasons. Explain the divorce and respond to the child's feelings. See, this is authoritative parenting style, right? Kids doing the dishes, hey, Fonzie thumbs up. And the kid's like, hey, I learned that from you. express warmth and nurturance, encourage independence, administer fair and consistent discipline. So we can help children adjust to divorce further by parents training, participating in parent training programs, seeking divorce mediation, which will help with out of court settlements, helps with cooperation and involvement of both parents. Joint custody grants parents equal say, so that requires and promotes effective co parenting. Lastly, if you're not the custodial parent, pay up. Blended families. 60% of divorced parents remarry. The mother stepfather situation is the most common. Boys tend to adjust quickly, girls often adapt less favorably. Older children and adolescents display more acting out behavior. Now, let's say you got the father stepmother situation. This often leads to reduced non custodial father child contact. What does it mean? It means that if dad left or if mom and dad separated and mom has custody, that once dad gets remarried, the dad spends less time with the kid. Now, okay, I'm not going to acknowledge that, but I see someone nodding. Now, listen, um, it's important because this is where education is important. By knowing it, you can help prevent it. By knowing it, if you are, aware of it, help avoid it the best you can. The children. Oh, sorry, that was loud. Got a new phone. Sorry. Children in the father custody often react negatively. Girls and stepmothers are slow to adapt. Maternal employment and dual earner families. Okay, mom's got a job. Okay, or mom and dad got a job. The benefits: a higher self esteem in the children. Okay, fewer gender stereotype beliefs. Good. Higher achievement. Great, you have access to resources. Greater father involvement, right? Because now they can kind of share some of the responsibilities of bringing up the child. But a drawback, which is kind of opposite of what I just said, heavy employment demands are associated with ineffective parenting. Mom and dad are working. Well, then who's raising the kid? Someone else. Childcare for school age children. So now, does that mean you shouldn't get a job? No. Does that mean that you can't get a job and raise your kid effectively? No, you can. You just have to be aware of it. You have to not be indulgent. You have to be authoritative. I'm in control, moderate control. I'm reasonable, non judgmental. I'm thoughtful, high and warm. Okay. So just know that there are some things to be aware of and avoid. Child care for school age children. Self care children regularly look after themselves. This increases both with age and socioeconomic status. The implications depend on age and how time is spent, meaning, what are you doing? Okay. After school programs that benefit school performance and adjustment include well trained supportive staff, generous adult child ratios, and you're not just going there to be, watched. You're doing some skill building, some enrichment activities. Some common school age fears and anxieties. So around this time, these are the kinds of fears that we'll see between 6 and 11. Academic failure. They're afraid of failing academically. Again, that competence versus inferiority. Peer rejection, personal harm, threats to parents' health, things they see on TV. Sometimes they refuse to go to school. Why? Because they don't want to separate from mom. Also, and that's from 5 to 7. Think about when you first go into school, kids don't want to go to school because they have, they want to be with their mom. They've been with their mom all day. Okay, usually. Then there are also between 11 and 13. Now we're getting to adolescence, but there are things you don't like about school. There's someone you don't like. There's a subject you don't like. There's a teacher you don't like. There's a group of kids you don't like. There's an activity you don't like. There's you don't like gym. You don't like the food. You don't like something about it. Harsh living conditions promote severe anxieties. Now, sexual abuse, the characteristics of the victims. In most cases, they're reported in middle childhood and they're more often girls. The characteristics of the abusers. Usually it's male, a parent or someone known by the parent. Usually it's the uncle. Usually it's the uncle, not the parent. That's why I don't know why it says parent. All the other textbooks say it's an uncle or a friend, a family friend. They'll often deny their own responsibility and they'll blame the victim. The internet and mobile phones are used to commit abuse as well. Some contextual factors: poverty, marital instability, weak family ties. What are the consequences? Anxiety, depression, low self esteem, adult mistrust, anger, hostility, disturbances in sleep, loss of appetite, and then later, promiscuity and bad choices of their partners. They'll pick abusive partners when they're adults. Now, when we say these things, are they common? Yes. Are they most likely? The truth is, no. Children are incredibly resilient, incredibly resilient. So, what do I want? Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because it happens so often. And by so often, I mean often enough for me to say this, that there's a chance that someone in this class or someone they know for sure who's in this class, someone in this class knows someone whose kid or whatever. Take it seriously, of course, but they're resilient. There is life. They become very productive, happy members of society. It is not the end at all. Okay. So, how can we prevent and treat? We can use trauma focused therapy, and we can prevent through education. This is what we're doing right now. Does that mean you can't let your kids hang around your brother? No, 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 it doesn't. How do we foster resilience, right? That ability to adapt. Sometimes it's just a personal characteristics. They just have an easy temperament and they have mastery oriented attribution styles when it comes to new situations. Having a warm parental relationship, having supportive adults outside of the family, having community resources available like good schools, social services, youth organizations, recreation centers. Last slide. Children serving as eyewitnesses, right? There are stressors that can compromise a child's accuracy. It's an emotionally traumatic event. They could be speaking against a relative, or they could be facing the abuser if it's not. They can be unfamiliar with the courtroom situation and the style of questioning, and they could be afraid of being punished if they tell the truth or if they don't. Questioning must be unbiased and age appropriate. They need to be prepared. They need to practice interviews and role play. Some alternatives to minimize the emotional trauma: testifying over a closed circuit TV, meaning they're in a different room. They don't see the people that are in the, I don't say audience, but in the courtroom. They just have a camera on them with one person in there asking questions, and the child just answers looking at the camera. And we can have impartial expert witnesses. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. I will see you next Monday. Is that Bo? Is that